Now I have here our Gigabyte. Now this is a Z278 Gigabyte motherboard, great motherboard to use. I have a 7700K CPU in here, and of course I've teamed that up with our W4 water block. So we're gonna go ahead and get this installed into the system and then go forward with doing our case fans and radiator installation. So let's get the motherboard installed. Now with this motherboard, this is an ATX motherboard. There's plenty of space in the case to be able to install different varieties of motherboards and sizes. You can go up to eATX standard form factor motherboards in this case, which fits the same screw fitment as an ATX motherboard, but being able to get this lined up and get this seated in here into the case gives you nice proper fitment here, and then great pass through for the grommets that are built in for your 24 pin, 8 pin, and serial ATA cables. Now, of course, before we do all of this, we got to get our IO shield installed. So we'll throw our IO shield in, get the motherboard going, and go forward here with the cooling. All right, now we have our liquid cooling as far as some of our primary components installed, but we do still have more to put in here for the View 71. But as you can see, I've laid out our fans. We have 3 120 fans here in the front of the chassis. I've also mounted our 360 radiator here on the side using 3 more fans, and then another 360 on the top. With the radiators that we have and the cooling, including the fan in the back, should give us enough adequate airflow for our radiators and our internal case components here to give us some nice temperatures for both our CPU and GPU that will be cooling. Now to bring in the GPU, since I just mentioned it, we have our 1080 GPU block right here. This is one of our Pacific Series VGTX 10 water blocks. This is our full transparent block we're going to be using to put in. And we're going to be mounting that here on the riser bracket mount that comes with the View 71. Now this is optional. The riser cable is sold separately. So being able to purchase the riser cable if you want to do this is something you'll need to do. And another quick tip with this is that when you mount the riser cable itself in here, make sure that the cable goes under the bracket and then up into the motherboard. Don't try to run it through the pass-through hole that's on the bracket itself, as it looks very welcoming to do, but it actually works better running it underneath the bracket. And for you people that are concerned, plenty of room still for your power supply to mount, and being able to get your power supply nice and snug in here with mounting this and the vertical bracket at the same time. Another quick tip, don't forget to add the little rubber pads that come for the power supply, so that way when it sits in here it's nice and flat and it's got the anti-vibration pads on the bottom. That comes in the accessory kit. Now we move forward with what to do on the next step. Now as we have our GPU, we're going to go ahead and take our GPU, we're going to drop it into our spot so we can get closer and closer to what the actual outlook is going to be on our liquid cooling system. So we have our GPU, we have our CPU, and we have our radiator. So the one primary component we're missing still is our reservoir and pump. For this, I'm going to be using our PR15 D5 pump. So we have D5 performance, and I wanted to go with the shorter stack reservoir for mostly the reasons of what I'm going to be doing with the tube work, which you'll see here later. But to mention as well with the View 71, another great feature is the bottom part of the chassis. Now you get a full filter on the bottom. So the chassis itself has a nice full slide out filter that comes included here on the bottom for being able to clean the system and removing this and cleaning it. So there is a nice filter that goes all the way across the bottom minus the drain door in the front. And with the filter, we also have a set of series of holes that we can use to line up and place our pump in different positions. I can mount the pump all the way to the front like so, or I can mount the pump way further back, or even more on the inside too. There's a set of rows both on the outer part of the chassis as well as across the middle section of the chassis, allowing me to kind of mount the pump in lots of different locations. And this is fully slotted down here on the bottom, so it will support a lot of different pump variances. And then of course, if you want to do a DIY where you're floating your pump and everything, they come with brackets to do so. You just may need to drill some extra holes to get it placed right where you want it. So we're going to go ahead and get our pump lined up where we want to place it, so that way we can get an idea of what we're going to do with our tube work. Where's everything going to go? I mean, I've already taken the sleeves off of our fittings so that I can set these here and have them ready to go. Seeing what I'm going to lay out, where you're going to get. Now that you got all your core components in here, you got to connect everything up together. And being able to see what's all going to work, how you want to do some stuff. Are you going to go from A to B to C? And which way are you going to do it? I mean, there's really no right or wrong way. For this build, we're going to go from the pump to our GPU, and then from the GPU, we're going to go into our top radiator, back down into our CPU, so it's cooled separately between the components, and then going into our second radiator before returning back to our pump. So at this point, we got our power in, we got our card pretty much locked in. And one other quick tip I like to talk about is when I'm doing all this stuff, I don't lock everything down super tight unless I know it's not going to move. So like my fans that I have mounted on the radiator here, I'm going to be able to secure those without an issue. But what I want to do is I want to give myself a little bit of play here on the radiator on the top, not with the brackets secured, but the radiator just a little bit loose. So when I'm going to do my first tube run, I'll have just a little bit of play so that way I can get everything set just right. And then once the first tube's in, I'll go ahead and secure the radiator in there. So that way when I do my second tube, the first one's locked in and it won't get messed up if anything moves or adjusts. Just a quick little idea for people looking to maybe get into liquid cooling and or maybe what you might want to do, just for some extra tips and tricks on that. Now for the back side of the case, because I know you guys are probably saying, well, hey, what does the back look like? So we'll take the case and we'll just kind of flip it around. And as you can see, I got a pretty good little spaghetti mess of wires here. You can see I have 13 ring plus fans in the case. And we've also done something a little bit more DIY, which, you know, sometimes certain things aren't spec'd out exactly. I mean, we don't particularly sell the product to offer 3 fans on the back side like this, but I just really thought it would be neat to have this here on the back, especially with the tempered glass panel. I'm looking forward to seeing what the fan lighting is going to give me on the adjacent side with the unique case feature giving the dual tempered glass panels. And to add even more with this wonderful mess that most people have to deal with and or other stuff with your power supply cables, you got a nice good amount of room back here. You're looking at probably about an inch and a half of spacing from the motherboard tray to the back wall. So that gives you a good amount of space to be able to run your cables back properly, get everything tied down, and hopefully we'll do a good job too here with the build. So now we're gonna go forward with cleaning stuff up, definitely get into some awesome tube work, and then come back for the fill. All right, now we've got our View 71 all laid out with some awesome liquid cooling. We went a step further too to do some creative designs with this particular tube run. As you can see, I try to mimic the 71 in the case, doing some other kind of just intricate bends and a couple little swirls in there just to show off a little bit more of like the tube work, the fitment options, the space that you have inside the View 71. And of course we loaded up our power supply, cable management, got everything all set and ready so that way we can go forward here now with putting the coolant in for the first time. Now this is one of the probably the best parts about doing any type of custom liquid cooling build, being able to see your coolant flowing through the system for the first time. So we're just gonna go right into it. And for this, with the way we've laid everything out, we figured a nice white color would really make it pop, especially with the Ring Plus fans. So I've got our C1000 white coolant here, and I got a couple of squeeze bottles so we can go forward with filling it up, and you guys get to see all the magic here unfold as we get the coolant through the system here for the first time. So let's get started. Now, when I go forward with this, I'm gonna wanna fill my reservoir. I wanna fill my reservoir all the way up, and then for the power, I'm only gonna be powering just the pump. For the sake of being Thermaltake, I have a secondary power supply that I'm going to be using to power just the pump while everything else is off. And then another quick tip is that if you're doing this for the first time and you're maybe not 100% sure on some of your connections from the tubings to the fittings, put some paper towels in between there just to double check and protect your system in case you may have a leak. But hopefully with this, we'll do great here on the first try. So we'll go ahead and start filling in that coolant. Okay, filling up the coolant for the very first time, you just want to double check in the first few minutes of getting the coolant through the entire system. Double checking all of your connection points for leaks and just making sure everything's going to look good once you put full power to it. So we'll be right back here with going in with this and being able to get everything all fired up here for the first time. And here you have it, folks, the custom liquid cooled Thermaltake View 71 by me, Thermal Mike. And I hope you guys like how we went through the process, showing you guys a little bit of tips and tricks along the way as well. We had a lot of fun building here in the system and definitely wanted to make sure we filled it out to populate as much as we could inside the system for, being able to give the maximums for what certain people are looking for, enthusiasts, all the way down to everybody just building their first system. Give you guys a full aspect of what can go in the View 71. We even went further and did a little bit of a custom mod here on the backside, adding 3 more additional fans. Now it's not particularly spec'd out for it, but as I went through the process, I noticed I had the nice hole placements there for the fans, just a little bit more on the cable management and lining up the fans there on the back. And with that, also take into account all these Ring Plus fans are all marked and set a certain way so those animations all match and flow throughout the case. And if you want to learn more, visit our website at thermaltakeusa.com. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for lots of great videos and events and more. And don't forget those questions down below too. Happy to help out, give you guys some even further details on the build or any questions you may have on liquid cooling or anything Thermaltake. So until next time, I'm Thermal Mike. Thank you for watching.